And welcome to the Bullet Hole Podcast. I'm Lyle Cadell, the media manager here at the Bullet Hole. Today, again, we got one of our instructors, Brian Holmes, and we're going to discuss, if you looked at the title, the best concealed carry position. So, Brian, we're going to get into the best concealed carry position. Appendix carry right now, huge deal. I've carried appendix for probably about 4 years. And I slipped back to 3 o'clock too. But it's been the hot thing, appendix has been. So why don't we go through, first of all, what are the carry positions that are available? And of course, and you can describe that through the clock system, if you will.
Yeah, you've got, if you look at your body as a clock, 12 o'clock would be your belt buckle. 3 o'clock would be your right hand seam. 6 o'clock is small of the back. 9 o'clock is your left-hand side seam. That would make the clock face for you. A lot of people who appendix, is like you said, is on fire. Mm-hmm. It's all over the internet, how fast you can deploy your firearm from appendix carry. I'm not arguing that. It's a solid position. I think the drawbacks of it are it's just as accessible to the person you're in a combative situation with as it is to you, because it's readily available right in front of you. That makes it kind of vulnerable to me. It's easy for you to defend, but it's also easily accessible to the person you're engaged with. If it's a physical altercation, which we probably are going to see before it becomes a gunfight, it's probably going to be a physical confrontation of some sort.
Now you were law enforcement. For those who don't know, you're a retired law enforcement officer.
27 years I've carried it at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
On my hip. So every incident I went to was a gun involved because I brought it to the altercation.
Yeah.
So there was a chance of it being taken from me and used against me. So law enforcement thrives on retention holsters and retention techniques in self-defense.
Well, what does that mean for folks that don't know? If they're looking for a retention holster?
It's a holster that is designed to secure the firearm, and something has to be defeated to release the firearm from the holster.
Okay.
Some kind of attachment that secures it from being inadvertently grabbed, falling out if you do a cartwheel or hang upside down off a cliff or something. Mm-hmm. Your gun doesn't just fall out readily.
Gotcha.
Some means of retention. So law enforcement has retention-style holsters to keep people from removing the holster from the officer. Mm-hmm. So people ask that question all the time in a lot of training classes and things, and just in general conversations in the gun shop. Do I need retention? Well, for concealed carry, my personal preference is no. I want to be able to access the gun quickly because I'm obviously getting it out because I need it. There is imminent threat of great bodily harm or death that I need to stop. So I need for that firearm to come out fairly quickly. I don't need to defeat some kind of retention. And if I'm carrying it truly concealed, as concealed carry's the title itself says, no one's going to know I have it or where I have it. It's going to be seen and then it's going to be used. So the deployment concept, for concealment purposes, I don't believe you need retention if you're truly carrying it concealed the way it's meant to be. So
if somebody's open carrying?
Open carry, I would really strongly encourage it because you're now inviting someone to taunt you, attempt to take your firearm just to prove a point. Not saying they're going to use it against you, but they're just trying to do it to show, hey, look, I took your gun. This is not a good way to carry it.
And this happened in Wichita. What, last year?
Yeah.
The guy was, cleaning out his car or whatever it was? The dude's walking down the street on the sidewalk, sees the guy has a gun, walks over and literally disarms him. Yeah. And goes, I think, to rob him or whatever. I don't remember how it all spun out, but because he didn't have no retention at all.
Yeah, so you have to think about if you're going to open carry the firearm, you should be able to retain it some way. I kind of teach that in my training classes, that I prefer you have a gun that's accessible, but for as much as it is accessible, you have to be able to defend it, to keep somebody else from taking it from you. It's got to be comfortable, and probably lastly concealable. Why? Because we can't open carry. So if somebody sees my gun, I don't think that's that big of a problem anymore because it's open carry is allowed.
Right.
So it's the last thing I consider as a part of the everyday concept of carrying a firearm. So it's got to be accessible, defendable, and comfortable. If it's not comfortable, nobody's going to wear it. So on that concept, on that thought, what should your holster be made out of? Well, there's a lot of things out there.
I want to get to that, yeah.
You know, but for me, it's got to be something that is a comfortable material to wear, and where I choose to wear it also lends into that comfort level. Now, I've heard in law enforcement many years, a gun is not supposed to be comfortable, it's supposed to be comforting.
Yeah.
I get the concept, and I understand what they're saying there. But again, I'm a realist, and if people are buying a 44 Magnum and they're trying to conceal it, and it's not comfortable or it's heavy, they just won't carry it eventually. So the day you may need that gun, God forbid you do need it, it's sitting at home on the nightstand or in a gun safe because it's just too heavy, I can't carry it.
Yeah.
Well, then it's probably not the right firearm for you to begin with.
That brings up maybe a shoulder holster. I mean, we did do the waistband, but
the whole world loves it. They still remember Don Johnson in Miami Vice.
Absolutely. Graduated from KU. Did you know that?
They love that holster. And if you dress in that kind of environment that you live and operate in every day where you can pull it off, it is a very comfortable way to carry the firearm. It does lend a little bit of inconsistency for the draw if you don't tie it down with the tie downs that come with it to your belt, because the holster moves.
Right.
Well, it might be moving when you're trying to grab it, and that's going to slow you down when you're already behind the curve because action is faster than reaction.
And so we've got 3, 6, 9, and 12, and shoulder holster, cross draw.
A cross draw. If you're a vehicle operator, you spend a lot of your time, say you're Uber or cab driver or truck driver. Cross draw is very effective. It does not interfere with the seat belt as it secures you to the vehicle. You can really deploy the firearm quickly, and you don't really laser or cover yourself at any point in time. You can get the gun straight up and still operate your vehicle. Just get this hand out of the way, bring the gun up, and get back on the wheel, and now you're right there at the window. So it's a good opportunity for people who are seated a lot because cross draw is very accessible. The appendix part doesn't bode well for heavier people when you're sitting.
Yeah. Very
Very uncomfortable, and there's just no place for the firearm to go. And it's kind of just there, and it protrudes out, and it's just not as affordable for those people that are seated most of their day. So you have to take that into consideration again. What's the environment that you live and operate in every day? How do you dress? What's acceptable? What isn't? That brings up ankle carry. Very concealable, extremely concealable. It's pretty easy to get to if you have some mobility and you're agile. You can get down there and draw that gun very, very smooth and things like that. Defendability, I have some questions about, only because most everybody you're going to get in an encounter with who may have played high school football or being a wrestler, they're going to do the double or single leg takedown, and that's going to put them closer to your firearm than you if they feel it when they do that takedown. Not that everybody out there is waiting to get in that confrontation and take you to the ground, but a lot of fights get to the ground. And if I'm in the position of disadvantage on the bottom and that person is trying to mount me like they do in MMA, I have no way to get to that ankle gun.
Do you remember how George was carrying his Trayvon Martin case?
I don't recall.
I can't remember how he was carrying it.
I can't recall either, off the top of my head.
I think it might have been at 3 o'clock, if I remember right.
It's very popular. It's still very concealable.
Yeah.
From the 3 o'clock, I'm carrying at 3 o'clock just because
I am today as well.
I went to the appendix for a while, and I thought that was the wave of the future. And look at me, I can do these sub-second draws and shoot paper on the range and like all the other YouTubers out there and things. But when you really look at it, when I start to analyze combatives, 27 years I was trained to do it one way. Draw it from 3 o'clock. I'm going to go there first. And the worst thing I can do is slow myself down by having to do a pat down and figure out where I'm carrying my gun that day. So I went back to just standard 3 o'clock draw. I've done several training classes now with concealed and open on the waistband draw in the class. I did 2 days with Jared Reston, one from Concealment at 3 o'clock and I was just as fast as the guys from Appendix. It's reaction and knowing where your equipment is and having faith in my holster to release the gun.
I mean, building those neural pathways, we call it muscle memory, but it's not. I mean, it's not muscle. From my understanding of physiology, it's not muscle memory. It's literally building neural pathways.
It's basically making a blueprint for your brain.
Yeah.
And it responds. It's a natural response. We see it a lot in car crashes. People get burns on their forearms, and they're like, where did that come from? I said, your arms got up faster than the airbag deployed, and the airbag deploys incredibly quick.
Yeah.
So that's how fast you reacted to the threat and protected yourself. That's why instead of having burns on your face from the airbag, they're on your forearms. So it's a natural response. Defend yourself, hands go up. I want my hand to go where I know the gun is going to be, and I draw it from there. So for me, I'm a advocate of 3 o'clock because that's where it's always been. So if you're new to firearms and you're just beginning your journey and trying to figure this out, try a few different positions, and whatever's the most natural, that what your body wants to do, don't fight that. Just go with it, and that's where you should carry your gun.
Yeah.
Because it's the most natural place to pick it from. For me, they talk about when you fire and you bring the gun back to your workspace. Well, what is your real workspace? It's different for everybody. For me, it's where I clap, where I reading distance. I bring the gun right back into here, and I can still see my world around me, but I can see the firearm clearly. I can manipulate things simply. I carry my reload wherever my hand naturally drops to my belt line. I carry my gun pretty much in the same position where my hand would naturally fall is where my firearm is going to be.
I learned from Travis Haley something that, and he's big on efficiency of motion, and and I never thought about it before, and I'd carried it 3 o'clock, and that was where I started out at, years ago, over a decade. And so what he, taught was that straight down motion rather than coming back motion.
Component skills. I mean, efficiency is speed because there's no wasted motion. I want to be the most efficient in the gunfight. Don't have to necessarily be the most accurate, but if I'm the most efficient, I can make up a little time. And I don't have to hurry and draw the gun 100 miles an hour and try to slow it down to find my sights. I draw it smooth, find my sights, press through the shot, and if you can be that efficient, you're making up time just by efficiency. So I think that's the takeaway is it's got to be a holster that I can be efficient with. And like you said, there's multiple different materials we can talk about.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about next.
And things like that. But as far as carry position, I mean, you're only limited by where you choose to carry it on your body, I think. Where it's most comfortable and efficient for you to draw from. I know a lot of folks carry like in belly bands, especially in summertime around here in Kansas and Missouri when it gets super hot,
or when they're jogging or whatever.
I mean, it's a way to keep the gun, and it's very concealed. I know officers that wear it on their armor underneath their shirts and concealed holsters that attach to their armor.
Yeah.
I mean, you're only limited by your imagination, and I would just preface this comment with this: I'm not an advocate of small back carry at all. It looks great in television and the movies, but that's it. It looks great. Why do I not want to carry my gun there? And I'm going to just give you a couple definitive reasons why I wouldn't. You and I get in a physical altercation. I'm carrying my gun at 6 o'clock. It's small of my back. You knock me down, and now I land on that gun. It is now lined up with my central nervous system. It's going to send an electrical shock up my spine if it doesn't fracture a vertebrae. Now my body weight is on top of my firearm and I'm injured. And now you jump on top of me. I have to remove my own body weight and your body weight to reach my firearm.
Not a good plan.
Not advantageous for me right there.
Not a good plan.
I'm standing in line at Walmart. You're standing behind me. You're closer to that firearm than I am. It's easily accessible for you, not so much for me. And I did this at home in front of a bunch of guys that, TAC guys from my old SWAT team.
Yeah.
We're having a barbecue, and I proved a point because I knew some guys that like to carry their gun there off duty because they thought it was very cool and comfortable. Well, we're talking pre-Black Hawk Down days and in the movies and things. But I had my daughter come over at the time. She was like 13, and she's small, 120, 130 pounds. And here I am, 6'1", nearly 275 pounds. I can, bench press a house. I put my arm behind my back to draw my gun, and she could hold my arm behind my back, and there's nothing I could do about it. And all my friends were like, "You're kidding me." I said, "No, you try it." And she did it to them. They're like, "How is this possible?" I said, "It's mechanical, how your shoulder works. It's a mechanical disadvantage. You're putting yourself in a natural arm bar. My shoulder doesn't work this direction. It works going forward and up. That's how it's designed to manipulate, not back here. I have no strength back here." So, a junior high school girl could hold my arm behind my back. Why would you put yourself in a natural arm bar to draw your firearm? Because now I can just rush you and keep your arm behind your back, and I've taken your strong arm out of the fight. It's just those things right there are enough to turn me off with that carry position. The risk is not worth the reward, in my opinion, for it. That's just the way I look at it.
Well, in the next segment, I want to talk about some components of how the stuff that's making the holsters, or is made of, and how that can affect some different things too. So we'll get back to it right after this, okay? Welcome back to the Bullet Hole Podcast today. I'm Lyle Cadell, the media manager here at the Bullet Hole, and if you didn't catch the in-between, if you're watching on YouTube, we are brought to you by Custom Built Firearms Manufacturing, based right here at the Bullet Hole Complex. So we, of course, have an entire line of ARs, from AR-9s all the way up to AR-10 chambered in .308. And we also have a dealer network, so you might want to check us out at American Cash Exchange in Manhattan, Kansas, here at the Bullet Hole, and then also at Osage Gun and Pawn in Sedalia, Missouri. And we have some more guys coming online here shortly that we can't announce yet. So, but we are powered up by Custom Built Firearms Manufacturing. That's custom built for life. So, great pieces of equipment. Brian's with me here again, one of our instructors. We've been talking about the best carry position, and we talked about 369, 12, around our waist, shoulder holster, belly bands. In the break, we were just kind of chatting about appendix. Been around for hundreds of years, and you brought up the pirates, man. And one of the it's to say what you said about the pirates. First of all,
you see Pirates of the Caribbean. That's where they stuck their musket
Johnny
right in
Depp,
the front.
man,
right in the front. And I said, but the problem is that's why we created the trigger guard, because accidents happened and the first guns didn't have trigger guards, and the trigger was readily touched when it wasn't meant to.
Yeah.
So they corrected that deficiency because they wound up a lot of injuries that were self-inflicting, and back then they were probably fatal.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the one thing people, just to address appendix carry, just to kind of revert just for a minute. People are so afraid, for guys, we're afraid, man, if I go appendix carry, I'm going to blow my junk off. And women, I'm going to, hit the femoral artery. Well, yeah, there's a possibility, with a striker fired or hammer fired gun, doesn't matter, I guess. But also, I mean, there's that risk that we take when we go to the 3 o'clock that we're literally sweeping many times our leg. And so
I get that question asked a lot in conversations, again, in the gun shop or in training classes. What could happen? Well, if your draw stroke incorporates your trigger finger going to the trigger, that's a training flaw. It should not be part of your draw stroke.
Yeah.
Your trigger finger works one thing, the trigger when it's necessary. It's not part of the draw stroke or reholstering whatsoever. And if you maintain that discipline, you probably won't have that result.
So keep the booger hooker off the bang switch, as they say.
Keep the booger hook off the bang switch. If that stays disconnected, you can't start the firing chain of the weapon.
Yeah.
And like we talked about earlier today, to me, that's what a good holster does. It's designed for two purposes. Hold on to my firearm until I need to put it in my hand, and then keep my trigger guard from being inadvertently touched, causing the firing chain to begin. That's the purpose I see holsters for.
Now, what we see holsters made out of, and this is a whole another ball of wax in the industry. Used to, it was leather, and I still do. I still have 2 leather holsters for my revolvers. Kind of traditionalist in that aspect, I guess. For a striker fired weapon, or for hammer fired for that matter, say for instance in 1911, cocked and locked, or I guess the 75B D. Which one is B or D? I can't remember which one has a safety. You can be cocked and locked.
D.
Yeah, of a CZ. And there's others that can be cocked and locked. What's your thoughts there? I mean, with the leather.
I still wear leather.
Yeah.
A lot. It's very comfortable. It is. It flexes with you a little bit. It gives more. When you start talking about the synthetic materials, they don't. And that's kind of what drove people to those synthetic materials, I think, was some information out there on the internet that people are talking about. When you draw for the gunfight, there's a little bit of friction from the gun coming across that leather. So it's not as easy to get the gun out. Definitely you can't reholster all the time because the holster collapses because it's leather.
Yeah.
And I look at that again as if I'm drawing the gun, I'm not putting it away till the police come.
Yeah, that's...
I'm going to leave it out and law enforcement can take it from me. And that's just me. I mean, I see the lights. I hear the sirens. They're pulling up. I'm going to set the gun on the ground. I'm not going to drop it like they don't. Oh, freeze, drop your gun.
Yeah.
I'm going to set the gun down and put my hands up, show them empty hands. There's no need for me to reholster. So that part of the equation is out of that
so
argument.
It's a mute point.
If you don't practice your draw stroke, well, yeah, there could be some problems. Again, if I'm using real leather, I treated it just like my baseball glove. I put some neat's foot oil on it, and I oil it up, and I smooth that leather so my gun draw is nice. A lot of guys are like, "Oh, it wears the color, the finish off my gun," and I'm like, really? I'm not carrying a gun to worry how pretty it is. The first day you shoot it at the range, brass is going to scratch and scar it. I mean, so if you're worried truly about keeping your gun pretty, then don't carry it. Leave it in the gun safe.
Yeah.
It'll look pretty forever. The finish is designed to protect the firearm for corrosion and rust and things like that. It's not.
And you're a 1911 guy. I mean, you like your 1911s.
I love mine have holster wear a little bit. Well, it's because they get drawn because I practice the draw stroke, and you have to be efficient, and you have to be able to do weapons manipulation.
What do you use for your 1911s?
I've got a couple Galcos, solid leather holsters, outstanding. There's a lot of good holster makers out there still today. Milt Sparks.
That's what a summer special, man.
All those, I mean, those are fabulous holsters.
Yes.
But it's kind of become a lost art.
It has. I
recently had a couple Kydex holsters made for a 1911. First time I put the gun in, I couldn't get it out. And I was like, oh, you're kidding me. So I put the gun actually on my body inside the holster, and I still couldn't draw it out. I had to heat it up with a heat gun to get the gun back out. So he made it with retention, but he retained it so well I can't get it out to fight with it. So I had to take it back and have him rework it a little bit. And I like the idea, but again, that's a problem. If I can't access my gun and get it into the problem, I'm probably going to be on the losing end of this confrontation. And leather usually gives your gun up, smooth.
And here in the shop, I mean, we have a good wide selection. I mean, we have leather and we have Kydex, and then we have also Bravo Concealment, which I've on today. In full disclosure, I've had a long time relationship with the folks at Bravo, but It's an injection molded
Like a Boltron.
Yeah, and it does not, mar the finish. But the one thing that
it's a little more durable than a Kydex material. Kydex, if you don't know, is basically the material of overhead luggage compartments in aircraft. It's the same kind of material, so it's very durable. But what I found is sometimes weather becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm.
It'll freeze and become very brittle, like peanut brittle.
I've had one break.
We've had them. I've had a couple.
Mm-hmm.
We spent 12 days now in the Midwest in sub-zero temperatures.
Yeah.
I left a holster in the car and it cracked. I picked it up and it just broke.
Yeah.
But it was an older Kydex holster.
Yeah.
But it just succumbed to the weather, and that was on me for not bringing it in. But that's what Kydex can do. And in the extreme heat conditions, it can change form and melt
warp,
a little bit. So, and that's why they created the Boltron, those injection molded styles, a little bit better, more durable, not so much weather problem. And like we were talking about the leather. Leather can mold and mildew. It used to be alive. So it's got some drawbacks, but it is still, I mean, if you're going to carry and it's wet conditions and you've got your leather holster wet, I would hope you'd take care of your gun and maintain your gun anyway, but you need to maintain the holster it was in as well.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the material you choose, which is most comfortable for you and again, the life you live and the world you operate in. I don't know what everybody, some people are lawyers, doctors, garbage men, school teachers, I mean, all walks of life. Mm-hmm. Everybody dresses different for their job. So if you're the head of Parks and Rec, you dress one way, but if you're city maintenance and sanitation, you might dress another, and so you have to figure out what holster style and where you're most comfortable carrying it.
And that's the thing about like for instance with Bravo and with that type of material, and you probably had Safariland when you were on duty.
They're pretty much the main manufacturer of a security style holster.
I think Bill Rogers was the one that invented that material. Yeah, if I remember, I may be wrong. Correct me in the comments below if you don't need to. But because of the duty environment, I mean, you guys are going in and out of cars from hot and cold to being out, standing out, doing traffic control.
The original Safarilands, they weren't so good. Stuff. They got marked up by seat belts and stuff, and guys were constantly trying to put shoe polish on them to make them look good. Yeah. Much better designs now, much better.
Lighter.
Much lighter, much more durable. Yeah. They don't scratch, mar, and get messed up as much at all. Very secure system, but they have the monopoly right now. Nobody wants to go head-to-head with them on building a security holster besides Blackhawk. They've come out with an excellent carry holster, and it's affordable. Their Omnivore line was very popular because you can put a bunch of guns in there. It attaches to the weapon light, not so much the weapon, so you could run 4 or 5 different guns at the range but never have to change your holster. Yeah. So I mean, there's the holster market has grown almost as much as the ammunition market has. Yes. So there's a lot of opportunity out there for you to find something that will fit the gun that you have and the style that you prefer.
So let's address to I don't want to use a brand name, but people will get probably the brands I'm talking about. They're holsters that have a sticky property. I'll just put it that way. They have no clip. They have no retention as far as passive retention. Nothing. It's just a slip in, and people are slipping these things in their waistband. Yeah, maybe ladies are using them while they have their leggings on or whatever, that type of thing going on there. Guys are using the same thing.
They carry them in pockets and stick them in waistlines.
What's your thoughts there?
It's a way of carrying a gun. Is it the best way? For a few more dollars more, get something that's a little more rigid and a little more securable. It gives you a little friction, a positive click when the gun is in, a positive pop when it comes out. That material, being so flexible, does not afford any security to your trigger. It can still be manipulated through that material. And it's just, I don't want to see anybody have some super confidence in a product. Yes, it does what it's designed to do. You can draw your firearm and the holster remains where where it was. But the problem is, again, that it's not really a holster. It's just a sock for your gun to carry.
Essentially, yeah.
And I would hate to see somebody depending on that product and actually get in a physical confrontation with it, and then they're fighting over that weapon you're trying to draw. The bad guy sees it, and he's grabbing on it too, and now you get an unintentional discharge at that point in time because you're both grabbing at that holster, and it doesn't provide any security.
Somebody's carrying at 3 o'clock and they've got one of those holsters, and they pull it out, and maybe their waistband isn't as tight as what it could be, and all of a sudden, what happens?
Holster comes with it,
and there they are pointing. Whoa, and
I've had that happen with like, I don't want to say certain brands of clips and things that guys attach to their holsters for security. Think about that statement. It's supposed to be secure. So you should probably unload your firearm, practice your draw stroke, and see if the holster stays where it's supposed to when you draw the gun. If it's not, then that system is not 100% reliable, and the day you get in that physical confrontation, you're going to draw holster with gun, and that's not going to work. To me, the best system is some way you attach the holster to your body. You guarantee success because the holster can't leave. It's attached to your belt by some means, clip, loops, rings, whatever means you choose to do it. I have kind of fallen in love with belt slide because it slides on and it's really attached to my belt.
Very attached.
If I'm carrying inside the waistband, it's probably double loop because it takes 2 of those loops to be defeated for my holster to come out. The loops face up, so
the snaps are made differently too, that they have to be
very tight. So
done a certain way.
As you pull up, the belt drives into the strength of the loop and draws the gun. Holster remains where it's supposed to be. That happens 100% of the time. I will say, early on in my law enforcement career, we were doing an off-duty range, shooting our concealed carry guns for self-defense, other than our department firearms. I drew my holster with my gun, and I didn't have a secure means of doing it. And for 1 second, you're pulling your gun and you see it, and then you got to grab it and throw it off, and then, now you've got no way to reholster. And funny thing is, on the law enforcement range, it's very structured.
Yeah, you have
fire
to.
and reholster. Well, I can't. My holster's on the ground, so I had to have my friend pick it up, had to hand him my firearm, and then had to reattach my holster to my body before I could reholster.
Oh, wow.
And now you get a lot of grief.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got your friends like, what kind of garbage are you carrying?
You're the butt of a joke.
Oh, now you'd be a meme on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
So it's happened, and I'm not the first person. I won't be the last. But I'm ashamed to say it. I mean, I've tested a lot of stuff. I have literally a tote just full of holsters.
I do too.
I probably have 3 to 4 holsters for almost every pistol I own because I'm always looking for the next best thing. Why? Because it's a never-ending journey. The people like, oh, you got so many guns. There's never really enough. I'm always looking for the next best thing. What is the best gun for me? What fits my hand? What can I shoot accurately? What's comfortable? What doesn't weigh so much? What's easy to manipulate? Can I reach the controls? Can I reach the trigger like we were talking earlier?
Yeah.
I showed you my pistol, and you're like, well, it's just a little bit long for my finger.
Yeah.
That's a consideration. Again, it's fitting the gun to your hand. You have to fit the holster as well to the gun. You just can't buy one of these universal winky dinks and think that's going to be the best holster for you. They work. But it's got my whole purpose is, does it secure the gun so it doesn't just fall out inadvertently, and does it protect the trigger? So,
and we're going to start wrapping up, but some of the tests that and I'll run it by you, over the years that I've used for a good holster, number one, for passive retention holster, inside the waistband, outside the waistband, doesn't matter, is if I can turn that holster upside down with a loaded firearm or a magazine in it. Let me rephrase that. With a magazine in it, and I can shake that with one hand. I'm not squeezing it. I can shake it, and the firearm doesn't fall out. with a Kydex or Boltron or injected molded polymer, if I can say it. That's kind of my test.
Yeah, it's a little security test. I want the gun to stay put.
Yeah.
Not that I, again, anticipate being dangled by my ankles off a bridge somewhere, but if I'm in a car accident and I turn my vehicle over, I don't want my gun to fall out and hit me in the face. I'm already trying to fight all the debris inside the car, broken glass, and everything else that could be flying around. And everything inside your vehicle becomes a projectile in a rollover crash. Everything. Your coffee cup, your phone, everything. And you're trying to survive this event, and now your gun hits you in the face.
Well, and hands-on. I mean, if somebody goes hands-on with you, they're going to the ground. And if you have a loose, fitting holster, and even leather. I mean, if it's not a good tight fitting,
we used to call that
leather.
We used to call that the Pez. If you're doing any kind of defensive tactics and you're trying to defend yourself in a combative situation, and your holster gives up your gun and it pezzes it out on the floor, now it's like football. It's a mad scrum for the fumble. Everybody's going after it. So you can't let your gun get off of you.
Now, for ladies,
stay somewhere.
I know, and we're building our ladies program up here, by the way, and that some words on that will be coming later. But for ladies who might carry, guys too, I have and still do on occasion carry off body. Because of whatever situation it is. And they have number one, a concealed carry, this is my opinion anyhow, a purse or a man purse or an EDC bag or whatever you would call it, that has a built-in compartment. That's one of my things. This is just me. It has to have a built-in compartment that's made specifically for concealed carry.
Most of these bags do have a pocket that will sufficiently house your firearm. Yeah. If it's not set up like he's talking about a designated compartment, you need to make it so. What I mean is buy some Velcro at Walmart and Velcro the inside wall of that, and then attach your holster to it. You can even go far as put a screw through the holster, through your bag, and hook it that way. So when you put that holster in there, it stays in place. You can't have a holster too secure. You really can't. Secure it in that bag so you guarantee all that comes out is gun. Some guys I know go as far as to cut slits and then they'll hand stitch it themselves. They don't really sew, but just so it doesn't tear anymore. And they'll put the clip of their holster through that slit. So now it attaches inside that bag better. Again, ingenuity is the mother of all inventions.
Yeah.
So figure it out for yourself. If I carry a sling bag, a slingback bag, one-sided. I do backpacks once in a while, but I really don't have a need for a backpack. But when I carry the sling back, it's really nice. It's easy. It's small enough I can carry some protein bars, some water, a lighter jacket in there. If I want to take this cover garment off and throw it in there, whatever. It's a good way to increase your capacity, medical, flashlight,
extra
tourniquets, extra ammunition, whatever you need. Even if you're going hiking, you don't know. So take first aid, take water, power bar, in case something does happen. Maybe a way to make a shelter, a poncho, a small enough bag, but now I've got my firearm in that bag, and it's still secured to me that way. And I look at the purse as that extension for women. My wife can pull things out of there. I can't imagine what's in there. I'm like, wow, how would you have that? You got like barbecue tongs in there for it, because you never know.
It's a miracle bag, bro.
Yeah, they keep pulling things out, wet wipes, and I'm like, my Lord, you have everything in there that you need. So
dinosaurs and cars for the kids, and I'm like, what in the world? This is crazy.
That firearm compartment in that purse is just for that. No purses, no makeup, nothing, because we don't want anything to interfere. When I put my hand for firearm, that's what comes out of that compartment, and that's the only thing in there.
It brings up an issue for ladies. So, and I realize you ladies have, my wife's the same way. We have, all these stinking totes full of holsters. My wife has totes full of purses. because it's like seasonal, and so
we never
I've
get
got
we
to
don't
change.
get that. Yeah, we don't get that as a guy. But
yeah,
ladies
I'm
have
like,
seasonal purses,
what
colors for autumn and
Yes.
colors for spring,
Yes.
and I have no idea about that stuff, but I've learned, and yeah, it's important. But
Is it a legitimate though? I mean, from your perspective as an instructor, is it something that you really want to encourage ladies to do, especially with the real thing is with kids. I mean, you have kids from 3 to 9, 12 years old, whoever however old they are, and here's a purse. It's got let's say a striker fired weapon in it or a hammer fired, doesn't matter, but let's go striker fired for the sake of the argument. And it's maybe in a holster, but that's a purse that's off your body, and you put it on the kitchen table, and that's mommy's purse, and I know mommy's got some candy in there.
There's always candy or gum.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to get a couple dollars.
And what's this? Oh.
Yeah. Again, it's a training thing. If you have small children, the gun can't be accessible. As they become old enough and people ask what's old enough, that's, again, your comfort level. It's what is most comfortable for you to teach them firearm safety and not to handle or manipulate firearms when they come across them. NRA, Eddie the Eagle, big program, very successful, teaching kids about firearm safety, and go tell an adult if you come across one. So if you're going to carry off body, that's always my concern that I bring up to any student. Where's that gun when it's not in your control?
Yes.
So I'm a big advocate of carry on body, have it readily available, accessible to you. With the understanding, I get ladies aren't built like us. Their hips are different. The draw stroke for them is different depending on the size of your hips and things like that. I completely understand that. So that should be a part of the equation when you're looking for a holster. Can you still get to your gun without having to lean over to draw, or your length of your arm and things like that, and compared to your torso? There's some considerations. Yes, it's definitely an uphill battle for ladies, but it's not an impossible battle.
No.
There's a lot of manufacturers now that cater to ladies' physiques and their bodies, and where they can carry firearms efficiently and effectively. So we're going to bring some of those in
to market here.
To market here, to address those needs, to give you those options so you don't have to be kind of handcuffed to off-body carry. Because there are some issues with off-body carry, and you just need to educate yourself to what's going to work best for you in the environment that you operate in every day. And I kind of hate to make it sound so military, but I mean it's really it addresses it in a real world sense and in context. I don't know how everybody lives. I mean, we've got businesses all around us here. We've got a liquor store. We've got the barbecue joint. I mean, those people don't dress. They don't dress the same.
Window shop over here.
Yeah, I mean, they don't dress the same. They don't do the same things in jobs. That some sit, some stand. These guys are cooking, so they have to dress accordingly. And if they're carrying firearms, they have to carry them in a way that's comfortable and efficient for them to still do their daily job.
Yeah.
So that's what's got to be really taken into consideration when male or female. What do you do? What's the most logical and makes sense to you way of carrying the firearm? How big of a gun do I want to carry? How much ammunition am I going to have in the gun? Where am I going to put it? And make those decisions and buy accordingly, and then you won't wind up like Lyle and I with totes full of holsters and trying to figure out why we have so many.
You'll probably still end up with a tote full of holsters. It's okay. So, I mean, to wind it up, we did title this The Best Concealed Carry Position. But when it boils down to it, there's one for Brian, and there's one for Lyle, and there's one for Joe, and there's one for Tom, and there's one for Sally, and there's one for Sue.
It is just the magic sauce is there really isn't any magic. Just like I can't tell everybody to buy a certain firearm.
That's right.
It's not a one size fits all. You've got to figure out what firearm fits you and your frame. Then you got to find a holster that fits that firearm and fits your lifestyle and how you operate every day. And then that becomes the system that you're going to use to defend yourself with. We didn't even expound upon belts.
Yeah, we
the
didn't
anchor,
know. It didn't
the
get there.
anchor of the holster
Yeah.
is your belt. So a
A lot
quality
of women don't wear belts, though.
Yeah.
That's why
And that's-
Ulti-clip came along.
and that's a very secure clip. My wife
Yeah.
likes it.
My wife does
I
too.
haven't been able to
Yeah.
draw and defeat the Ulti-clip to make the holster come out
I haven't either.
with mine. So if anything, I mean, not pushing anybody's product, it's a solid system.
Yeah.
Very secure, very solid. I would give it 2 thumbs up. I
I've
mean,
been
just
blessed
its
to know
quality.
the owner of the company, so I have Ulti-clip.
It's quality way of carrying your gear.
Yeah.
So you got to have a belt to secure that holster to. The holster needs to fit that firearm and protect it and give you some kind of passive or intentional retention depending on your needs. Again, where how you live and what you do. If you feel you need retention, then I'm not going to say don't. Get retention, but you need to practice defeating that retention to get the firearm into the fray. If you can't get it out, you're really carrying nothing if you can't deploy it.
So you got classes coming up. I know that you're teaching 3 concealed carry classes in the month of February. Well, probably 2 now left.
Yeah, the demand is incredible for concealed carry.
So you got those coming up, and you're also doing a pistol 2 and 3.
Trying to get scheduled pistol 1, 2, and fighting pistol, our third iteration. They are prerequisites. Why? Because as we move down that journey, that path, I've got to make sure that your skill sets are on point, because we're going to be moving, shooting, manipulating the gun around barricades, engaging multiple targets and things. And I really need to make sure that you're good at the holstering and unholstering and reholstering the draw stroke and reloading the firearm efficiently, because the gun's going to be moving around a lot. And everybody says, well, it could get pointed in an unsafe direction. Anywhere out in the real world is an unsafe direction.
Yeah.
Bullets are going to go somewhere. They don't have a home, they find them. So I don't want to practice or train recklessly. But I'm also a realist. I'm going to spend a lot of time behind the student, but I want to make sure they don't injure themselves in that process. And until you're comfortable doing that, we can't escalate up the ladder. So it is set up that way. If you have
and
some
people
viable,
can come get private instruction from you as well.
Yeah, I do. You can book private lessons as well. I'd be more than happy to do one-on-ones, give you all my full time and attention. It is a little more difficult in the class environment because I'm trying to spread myself like, jelly.
What is your email address? I can't remember.
Brian at the Bullet Hole.
Yeah,
but
that's what I thought.
I don't know how to get to it yet, so don't flood me with emails.
If you can get a hold of me at media@thebulletHole.com or Brian, and he'll find it now. Or call us.
I'll get a way to get in sometime.
Yeah, call us at 913-432-0050 and ask for Brian Holmes. Hey, I want to train, just one-on-one. What's the kind of cost if I want to do a one-on-one?
I think it's $60 an hour.
Okay.
$60 an hour for a training private one-on-one session.
Yeah.
But we're not also up on the bays. We're downstairs in the open environment. So we're going to be in a wide open area.
Yeah.
We're gonna do some things differently than you're used to on a standard square range. So it gives you a little more in context training and firing in an environment that you might be forced to.
And so they're at that point in time too, they're able to, and I know through Greg's classes as well and Luke's intro to pistol, they probably go through some holster stuff too. But when they go through that one-on-one type time with one of you 3, they can learn, man, this doesn't work with this and me, and no.
I try to be really PC about it. I just don't want to look at you and say your stuff sucks. But I'll tell you, I wouldn't bet my life on it. And if you hear that phrase, it's probably me giving it the worst review possible, because I can't make another me.
Yeah.
I can buy a different gun. I can buy a different car if I don't like what I got. But there's only one of me, so it's priceless. And I need to make sure what I choose to use, I can bet on. And the only way it's going to fail me is if probably I don't use it correctly. Gotcha. I want that gear to be that reliable. The blades I choose, the holsters I choose, the guns I carry, they're maintained. Are they cleaned every night? I'm not that guy. But they're mostly They're mostly cleaned and maintained to a level that I feel secure and comfortable with. I trust and have tested the ammunition that I carry. Everything is purpose-driven that I use. And I want people to kind of adapt that mindset. I'm not saying I'm correct. I just learned from other wise men who've done it before me. And like we talked about on the break, if we don't observe what history's taught us, we're doomed to repeat it. And I don't want to do what's cost other people their lives. I want to take what's been extremely successful for these people that have won violent altercations. Mm-hmm. What did you do besides mindset? Well, skill set, equipment, all that. I had a plan. So I incorporate all this into how I move every day, and I'm comfortable with what I have.
Yeah. So in the end, the best concealed carry position
is the one you choose.
There you go.
Train with it and keep it as sacred as your marital vows. I mean, it's got to be second nature. This is where my gun is. This is where I'm going to deploy it from. Inside the outside the waistband, it's not any different when you're carrying it the same spot. Mm-hmm. Appendix, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whichever you choose to deploy from. Inside or outside the waistband is no different. One's just a little more concealable than the other, but both are the same spot. If you carry appendix, slow down on the reholster. Make sure your finger is not part of it, mm-hmm. and you won't have the accident or the fear of shooting your femoral or something else you don't want to depart with. The draw stroke, again, practice. The trigger finger is not part of the draw stroke at any point in time until you're ready to engage the target. And for me, that's when my sights are at least aimed in the general direction of the barrel. They all have to be aimed in the direction that then my finger can go to the trigger. If it's facing any point of me or something else, that my finger can't be there.
So I hope you guys have got something out of this. This could go on for probably an hour or 2 hours, just talking about it. And we had, like I said, belts and all that type of thing. But I mean, this has been a good discussion about the best concealed carry position, and hope you got something out of it. If you have, if you're watching on YouTube, maybe share it with somebody that's new to firearms, and make sure they get a hold of it. Even the podcast, if you're listening to us on Spotify or iTunes or however you're listening to us, we're on 9 different platforms. Just share the podcast and make sure that person gets a hold of it so that they can glean some knowledge too. And if they need to go through some training, hey, check out bullethole.com. Go all the way to the bottom of the page. All of our socials, most of our socials down there, but also just click on the link and it says training and classes, and boom, you got an entire calendar. Or give us a call, 913-432-0050. There's an abundance of ways. Come by the shop. Talk to one of the guys over in the showroom. There's all these ways. Or email Brian, and Brian will find it.
I'll get to it.
He'll find his email. Mine's media@thebulletHole.com. And I check mine all the time. So, but anyhow, as we have behind us here, the bullet hole, not the
not the other one,
not the other one. That's an ongoing joke. Protect, compete, learn, as always. So until next time, the best concealed carry position for you is probably the one that's the best for you. There you go. So until next time, take care.